Alexander, how did you do that? And he goes, I don't know, I just did it. I'm like, these kids nowadays with all their technology. But
Oh,
Hi,
yeah.
Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi,
there.
Melissa.
Hi.
Good
Can you all
afternoon,
hear me all
Melissa.
right?
Yes. Does everyone hear Melissa all right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Melissa, my name is Dean Labute, and I'm the chair of this long-term care transformation committee of our Windsor-Essex chapter of CARP. And on behalf of our executive board, our more than 2,200 members and the members of this committee, I want to thank you for agreeing to meet with us today for this question and answer session. And we look forward to your answers. I will now call upon Gay to present you with the questions. Gay.
Good afternoon, Melissa. So we'll just get right into it, okay, with question 1.
Okay.
What is your party's plan to provide a seamless system of home care, long-term care, and palliative care for our increasing elderly population in Windsor and Essex County?
So the Green Party wants to build 55,000 new beds in Ontario. I don't have specific numbers for Windsor-Essex County, unfortunately, but that would be spread out geographically based on need. And this would be done by the year 2033. We also want to phase out the for-profit system, as we've seen that is a very poor system and does not support people. We'd be looking at repealing Bill 218 and creating a system of formal oversight for long-term care. So with medical directors working with the Ontario College of Physicians to improve that and prevent any issues with that. I think that covers that question. Is there anything else specific to that you would like to know?
Yes, we're interested in, does the Green Party have an idea as to how they can improve the system wherein a person might move from home care into long-term care and then into palliative care to make it easier and simpler for the person having to do that?
Yeah, so part of it would be increasing funding for holistic measures and also preventative measures so that people are less reliant on some of that. I think that's what I have for now, but I can also send you some more information later if you'd like.
Okay. So what specifically will you and your party do to help more seniors stay in their own homes?
So the Green Party is looking to increase in-home care services funding for that by 20%. Create a standard basket of core home care services that providers must make consistent across the province. Again, like I said, we'd be shifting away from for-profit entirely to nonprofit and create a public system. Provide team coordinators as a single access point within family health teams to ensure care is consistent with patient needs. Mandate that personal support workers are paid a minimum wage of $25 an hour so that you can trust those people to know that they are in proper care, in proper shape to be able to take care of you. And increase high quality home care options for those experiencing frailty, dementia, and disability. And we'd be looking to collect more meaningful data so that we actually know where to improve. Without the data, we don't know what we need. So that's what the Green Party will be doing. Pardon me?
What was the second point, Melissa? It's about a team coordinator. That sounded interesting.
Yeah, so the idea would be to provide a team coordinator or assign one to each family.
Oh, okay. From a team of providers. So there's all sorts of people who are involved in the healthcare system at home or whatever, and this team.
Melissa, excuse me, Larry, Melissa seems to be frozen. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Yeah, she
So
is.
Melissa?
Hope I didn't scare her.
No, she can't see or hear.
I mean, chat. See if she can
Maybe
see.
she'll have to
I'll send her a note and
join
chat.
us again.
Yes. I think she's doing that now
Yeah.
because I see the
Yeah.
LF
Okay.
there.
There she is.
It
Sorry
somehow
about
got frozen there, yes.
Yeah, some technical difficulties. So back to your question, Larry. The idea would be to have a team coordinator assigned to every family so that there's consistency of care and so that the family is always aware of how their family member in care is doing.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay,
KK, continue.
are you ready to move on to the next question? Melissa?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What is your vision for long-term care? Specifically, we would like you to comment on how your plan will provide a quality and stimulating environment that is based on the individual needs of seniors.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, the Green Party doesn't have a lot of verbiage to cover this topic, but I will say the Green Party is looking to improve how we approach issues like the infectious disease pandemic that we just went through. We need plans to be more prepared for that in the future so that people are not locked in their rooms, because that does affect our environment and the amount of stimulation that we're experiencing. My grandmother is in long-term care, and just the stories, luckily she's fine, but the stories of being locked in your room, not being able to talk with your friends is not something anybody should have to endure. If you weren't in long-term care, you could still go outside and go for walks in the park and maybe talk to neighbors, but being locked in your room is not good. And with more preventative measures, hopefully we would never have to do that again, and we can have a social life.
Does the party have any idea as to moving long-term care homes to a more friendly environment to a person living there? So instead of being on the home's time, they're on your time, more or less.
Yes, generally speaking, having everything in one place, like your hairdressers and services like that, so that you can make those plans on your own time, would be ideal. The Green Party also wants to create, in a more broader sense, better communities for everyone. So creating dense communities where there is parks and groceries and accessibility to all those sorts of things within a smaller area, so that you don't have to send family members or have to make a big trip around regular tasks that you should be able to do.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. What is your party's plan to attract and retain healthcare workers in home care and long-term care? And what staffing client ratio does your plan include?
Okay. So a major part is repealing Bill 124 and removing problematic sections of Bill 106. We would invest in healthcare workers and increase the minimum hourly wage to $35 per hour for registered practical nurses and $25 per hour for personal support workers. There's also increasing funding so that we can see nursing programs have an enrollment rate of increased by 10% over 7 years. And the ratios we're looking at or we're hoping to accomplish would be 1 nurse practitioner per 125 or 120 residents, 20% registered nurses, 25% practical nurses, and 55% personal support workers.
Okay, thank you. Last question. Well, perhaps not, but we'll see. Okay, as an electorate, how do we know you will put your plan into practice? And what are your specific timelines and benchmarks for the implementation of the changes you are promising for home care and long-term care?
So I think what makes the Green Party great is that we are a grassroots party. We're very small and we don't have big money in our pockets or anything like that. As you may have seen, Mike Schreiner, the MPP in Guelph, he has done, and also the leader of the party, he's done an amazing job of bringing things like climate issues to the table, even being one person. He has definitely shifted the needle in that regard. And the Green Party is bringing forward a much bigger plan this year that includes things like the healthcare and housing affordability and long-term care and general health care. We have a strong voice and people do listen to us. As for timelines and benchmarks, I did mention them going throughout here regarding the specifics. I personally, I am very new to politics, and I want to get this done as fast as possible for everyone. Of course, I don't want to see people struggling, but unfortunately, I can't offer specific numbers other than the ones that I already have regarding those points.
Okay, Melissa, given that you've now responded to our 5 questions, and we do have some time left, would you be willing to respond to 1 or 2 more questions from our chair, Dean Labute?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Melissa, thank you for that. I have
Thank
2
you.
supplementary questions for your consideration. And the first deals with the height of the deaths occurring in long-term care following the second wave of COVID-19.
Yes.
And as the deaths mounted into the thousands, the Ford government moved quickly to enact Bill 218, which is commonly known as the Support Ontario Recovery and a Municipal Election Act. Under that legislation, he provided a protective shield for the homeowners of retirement homes and long-term care homes and their investors from being sued by the families who had lost family members due to COVID in these establishments, where the Green Party, if it formed government, moved immediately to repeal Bill 218.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the Green Party, that's a major part for us, is repealing Bill 218. And like I mentioned earlier, there are plans to prepare for future infectious disease outbreaks. Unfortunately, we'd all love to believe that we're never going to go through something like this again or never see an infectious disease like this again, but they've happened in the past and they will continue to happen. And we need to be better prepared. There's no excuses for what we went through. For-profit long-term care is not the answer.
Okay, that's a nice segue, Melissa, into my second question. Today in Ontario, there are more than 700,000 Ontarians being recipient of home care. And at the same time, we have approximately 70,000 Ontarians residing in long-term care. And yet, when it comes to government budgeting, 87% of the money budgeted goes to fund long-term care, and only 13% goes to the funding of home care. With a Green government, reverse this inequity in funding?
Let me just check my numbers here. I don't know the exact numbers, but I do have them here. So what I have is increasing funding to in-home care services by 20%. I'm not sure if that is balancing it out quite as much as you would hope.
Yeah, because currently the ratio is 87% for long-term care, 13% for home
So
care. And we
still
believe
not
there should be
quite
more
even.
equity
Yeah.
in the funding of these
Yeah.
services. But your Green Party is proposing an immediate increase of 20%
Yes.
in the area of home care. I
Yep.
assume that would build, they would build on that. Is that correct?
It would be. And honestly, that is a very good thing to bring up. And I would happily bring that forward to Mike Schreiner and see what further information could be provided on that issue.
Well, we would appreciate that.
Yeah.
And if you could forward that information to Anne and she would share it with us, that would be
Okay.
great.
I would be happy to do that.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Well, look at that has concluded this part of the meeting. I will now call upon Henry to formally thank you on our behalf. Henry?
Thank you, Dean. Melissa, I'm on iPad 10. I want on behalf of Dean, Anne, Larry, Pat, Gay, Donna, and Sandy, thank you sincerely for meeting with us this afternoon. Oh, and should I also say for your periodically friend, wonderful looking cat joining us.
Thank you. Yes.
We really appreciate hearing your thoughts and your philosophy and your frankness this morning. We wish you well in your first adventure into politics, and particularly in this upcoming election. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Okay,
Bye.
good canvassing to you, Melissa. Bye-bye now.
Okay. Bye.
Bye now.
Okay, Dean, Melissa's gone.
Okay, a quick question to Anne. Anne, what time is it?
I have 2:19. We have 10
Do you want
minutes.
to see if you can send Gemma a quick note? And if she's able to join us a bit earlier, that may be advantageous.
Sure. Do it right now.
Otherwise, we have 10 minutes before she joins us. So we can let her know that we're available now if she is available. But quickly, Gay, your thoughts on Melissa?
Well, like she said, you know, she's new in politics, and
Exactly.
you know, I wish her well. You know, I think she will become much better as she gains experience.
Indeed, indeed. Okay, I'm going to start at the other end. Sandy, your thoughts?
I just think it's wonderful that someone that young has gotten involved. I've been quite impressed with the Green Party when I've been watching debates and the detail in their platform. I think they've given the other parties a run for their money. So I give Mike Schreiner a lot of credit for what he's done in a very short time. And I think she's like a lot of the Green Party people. We've seen a few of them. They're very enthusiastic and really believe in what they're doing.
Absolutely. Pat, your thoughts?
Oh, she can't hear or talk. Oh, she can hear us, but she can't speak, Dean. Like
Okay.
Her speaker's not working.
Does she know sign language?
Yeah, is it okay?
Okay,
Do you
Pat,
give us-
we miss your words of wisdom, but I will then go to Larry.
Oh, Gemma just-
I voted for the Green Party back in the 1990s, so I usually prefer their progressive and radical approach to change as challenges to established parties. I thought her presentation showed more restraint and moderation than I expect from the Green Party. So it seems they're trying to align themselves more closely with the mainline parties these days. But as someone else said, I'm always pleased to see young people willing to take up a very difficult challenge of politics, and so
Right.
good for her.
Yes.
Gemma replied, Dean, Gemma replied to my request to come on earlier or now. She said on my way, so she could be joining us.
Oh,
in a
excellent.
minute.
Okay, Donna, quickly your comments.
Yeah, I was impressed with the Green Party. Especially, you know, a lot of the young people coming forward, and let you think about it, those are going to be the new voters in the coming years. So yeah, I think I'm impressed with them. I really am.
And your thoughts?
Gemma is logging on right now. Gemma's with us.
Okay.
Dean.
Hello,
Sorry, Henry.
good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Hi, Gemma.
Good.
We're good. How are you?
Good. It's been a great day.
Great.
Yeah. Gemma, it's Dean. Since we know each other,
Yes.
you know my name is Dean Labute, and I'm the chair of the Long-Term Care Transformation Committee of our Windsor-Essex chapter of CARP. And on behalf of our executive board, our more than 2,200 members, this committee, I want to thank you for agreeing to meet with us today for our question and answer session. And we look forward to your responses to the questions we have already supplied you. And I will now call upon Gay to ask the questions. Gay?
Hi, Gemma. I'm happy to be asking you these questions. So the first one is, what is your party's plan to provide a seamless system of home care, long-term care, and palliative care for our increasing elderly population in Windsor and Essex County?
Absolutely. And thanks for the opportunity to come in today. I'm sorry. Am I like being timed on the answer for these questions just from Claire? Okay, great. All right. So this is going to be great. So absolutely, we believe that home care, long-term care, and palliative care should work seamlessly together. And that home care is really going to be the start of and a really key part of our public universal healthcare system. We will work towards making that public with a non-for-profit delivery of home care so that funding for home care goes directly to better care instead of higher profits. In order to make sure it's seamless, we were going to make a sustainable investment of $1 billion over 4 years into better healthcare and better living by guaranteeing a high quality care service for home care recipients with a direct investment of $235 million in the first year. This also includes $25 million to help increase capacity for nonprofit community-based organizations, $57 million to provide hospitalizations to help people stay at home longer with assisted living. And absolutely, we're going to prioritize aligning home care services to community needs. And when it comes to palliative care specifically, I mean, Cancer Care Ontario was created by the NDP back in 1995, and we have fought hard to ensure that these services are available in our community. So our palliative care and end-of-life care will follow those guidelines as laid out by Cancer Care Ontario, recognizing the hallmarks of what makes great service, right? Communication, shared decision-making, individualized care, pharmacological intervention, as well as expanding the network of hospices and establishing compassionate and accessible palliative care system and helping those that are seeking access to medical assistance in dying. That was a lot.
It was.
Let me know if
You covered off some of the questions.
notes. So if you'd like, I'm happy to supply those to the group when we're done.
Please.
Yes, please do that.
Okay.
Now you have addressed this a little bit in your first response, but I'll ask the second question. What specifically will you or your party do to help more seniors stay in their own homes?
Absolutely. I mean, I think about my mom and dad in their 80s, right? They're just living in the Fontainebleau area and they're quite happy at home. They got everything that they need there and they've worked really hard to be there and they want to stay. And absolutely, the NDP is part of ensuring that they have money that they need to be able to live at home for as long as they want. And we have a plan that I talked a little bit about the $1 billion, but I think this is now where I'll bring forward implementing a seniors property tax deferral program. So people can choose to have the province pay their property taxes. And what that will help them do is reimburse those costs. It'll save about $400 a month by our calculation. And we're absolutely setting that up to make sure that we're not providing a deficit to the municipality. So the province is going to fund that loan specifically and finance it. And then they would be reimbursed after the person sells their home. And if you pay about $4,500 in property tax a year, it should leave another like $375 to $400 a month for groceries, gas, transit, and any leisure as well. We also have a plan for a seniors home safety grant. So right now it's a seniors home safety program and it's a loan. And we're like, let's move that into a grant and actually helping seniors cover the cost of handrails, stair lifts, modifications to make your home safe with up to $5,000 towards eligible expenses. And also I want to talk about introducing a caregiver's benefit, because absolutely we can't be talking about helping people stay in their homes if we're not acknowledging the role that caregivers play in that. And that is a program that will give caregivers $400 a month to help with expenses when they're providing regular care to a loved one, like covering mileage, as well as buying personal care items. And finally, and I think most, you may not necessarily most importantly, but I think it's a really important aspect to bring up, is building new homes over the next 10 years that meet the needs of seniors and have a mandatory universal design standard, right? Like we need to really rethink how we are thinking about the homes that we're building. And so over this next year, immediately, that would be like 150,000 homes that again, will meet that affordability aspect as well as the needs for seniors, making sure they have the universal design model, and think like stairs that don't have the standard like 6-inch rises, but more like the 4 inches, right? Those are key. I mean, and trust me, after walking up to as many doors as I have as the last 8 months, I have really grown to appreciate these new modified stairs. It makes such a huge difference. I'm like, oh my goodness, I could go up and down these all day. But I absolutely recognize that that's something that we really need to work for, and like making sure that the bathrooms have the handrails and the shower racks and like the walk-in showers, like those are all the rage now, right? Like I just installed one in my house and converted my main floor bathroom into a walk-in shower and like redid it. And the reason why is I'm thinking forward to the day when stepping over the tub, because we have the big soaker tub, is going to be a hurdle. And so what would be better is like a nice little sliding door. There's just a ledge, like a bump, like about that much. I can get in, get out. I even picked up a really beautiful teak bench that I've already rested inside. And it really provides me an opportunity. I could sit there, feel fabulous as I'm washing my hair. These are the types of things that we're going to need. Like we have to think differently about them, right? And even like, and just to tell you a little bit about myself, like my husband and I live in a 100-plus-year-old house right here on Pilet Road. And I mentioned that because when we were buying the house, we were always thinking of the future. We wanted to live here for as long as we could. And so the space I'm in right now is my home office, which is also on the main floor. And there's a full bathroom also on the main floor. That was an absolutely huge thought when we were purchasing it, because it would allow us, if we couldn't do the stairs one day, to still be able to live in our home, have a space that we could use as our bedroom, have access to a full bathroom on the main floor.
That's great thinking ahead.
Right? In the planner.
So the next question is, what is your vision for long-term care? Specifically, we would like you to comment on how your plan will provide a quality and stimulating environment that is based on the individual needs of seniors.
Absolutely. And so it has to fit together. And I'll be candid. I was hoping that this conversation would provide me an opportunity for a public comment to some of the other candidates in the field about the record that currently exists. But definitely we know that there have been a lot of missteps that has cost people their lives. We have seen the government do what they have done to change the legislation to protect their friends who are in long-term care specifically, as well as wage suppression legislation, as well as Bill 218, removing the ability of many of you to seek any type of civil liberty or civil suit for the death of your loved one, right? So let's just state that, because I think it has to be stated. So, and I think that it's really clear that whenever you are designing a system, that there is an inherent conflict that exists when you're talking about profit seekers and high quality care and removing profit out of long-term care. Because it's evident to me from what we've seen happen in the past that when you have the profit as part of it, the care you're going to get is always going to be through the lens of, well, how much is that going to cost, as opposed to what do our elders need to be comfortable? So we have a strong, achievable plan to help fix a broken home and community care plan, replacing profit-driven corporations, both in home and long-term care, with municipal and nonprofit ownership and full public delivery. I will also add that the other day I was at Hotel Du Healthcare on Prince Road campus and had a fabulous opportunity to sit with CEO Bill Mara. And one of the things he shared with me was the current application that they have in right now to the government for 169 new long-term care beds at their establishment. And why they were able to move through the system so expeditiously as they're sitting there waiting for approval is because it's the perfect model. It's already being provided in a nonprofit setting. And this is so incredibly key. So in addition to doing like what I can, and I'm probably jumping a little bit ahead, but I'm going to reference it here anyway, right? Like doing what I can to help advocate for that particular approval to move forward. We also have a plan to build 50,000 new and modern beds, and immediately in 2020 begin building new public and nonprofit home and community care and long-term care homes that also reflect cultural language and food. Here's an example. I'll think about my mother-in-law. So when she was rehabbing from one of her second knee surgeries, because she's like fully bionic from the waist down, so both knees, both hips, because she was looking for a place to be able to go to, convalesce, because the house she lives in has stairs going up to the only bathroom upstairs and stairs going down to the only bathroom downstairs. And I say that because she is a lovely woman, comes from the Caribbean, is very accustomed to like rice and peas and curried goat and oxtail and all these great dishes that we have in our community. And like, she can't get that in a lot of the places. So the spot that she was in where she was rehabbing in Toronto, I might add, I was shocked because she was like, I don't really like the food in here. So whenever we went to visit her while she was there, I brought her dinner because I would like go and get her some, some curry chicken, some jerk chicken, some rice and peas, any of that. And so I state that as an example because I think it's the perfect example to illustrate why people want culturally appropriate food. If you grew up every day eating rice and peas, like I know my mom did, and I did until I was able to cook for myself. You're accustomed to eating it every day, and you want to make sure you can get that wherever you go. So that's part. And also small nursing home communities that feel like home with people who care. And I mean, like, so much of the caring from the people that I've spoken to out on the road, they're like run off their feet. The PSWs, the nurses, the pay isn't even. Some people got in, they've been there, veterans for 10 plus years. There's no extra benefit for them for being there. There's no extra bonus for coming into the profession. And then, people leave work, or they're short staffed, or goodness gracious, throughout COVID, people were off sick without sick leave, but that's another point. But my point being, you want to make sure that they're getting the care that they need, and it's going to take time. So I know that there is a mandated in the, fixing long-term care bill that, Premier Ford just fixed, but we're still waiting until March of 2025. So how can we speed that up and get more 4 hours of residence care per person? And then, of course, I want to address specifically the quality and stimulating environments, because I definitely think that day programs, and they offer so much help for people that are dealing with loneliness and isolation. And as long as those day centers and programs are provided in a professional care setting, providing social preventative services, helping support independence, supporting healthy and daily living needs, providing respite for caregivers so they can have a break. It's absolutely important. And I also want to reference our plan to legislate a new independent office of the Senior Advocate to safeguard the interests of the elderly through the Seniors Advocate Act.
Okay.
Oh, that was on one breath.
Gemma, what is your party's plan? What is your party's plan to attract and retain healthcare workers in home care and long-term care? And what staffing client ratio does your plan include?
Okay, so definitely, as I mentioned before, I'm talking to people. It's been terribly understaffed, and we know that. And the nurses and the PSWs are completely burnt out and underpaid. And that's just from years of neglect specifically. And so we want to repeal Bill 124, support the hiring and retention of nurses, end those cuts to healthcare workers and nurses, provide a comprehensive staffing and HR plans so that staff are not overworked, thinking about a team-based model. And this is also something I learned the other day from my conversation with Bill Mara. He was talking about how they're rethinking this team. So I know back in the day, if you talk to any old school nurses, they'll tell you it was us. We did everything. We fed, we bathed, we toileted, we administered medication, all of that. And nowadays, as we look across the clinical expertise that we're expecting from nurses and what we would want them to be able to do, we absolutely want to ensure that they are using their expertise to the utmost. And where we can have a PSW step forward with some of those other things, that is absolutely a part of what we're proposing as well too. And I don't think I mentioned this specifically, but it is our plan to hire 10,000 PSWs with a pay raise of $5 above the pre-pandemic levels, hiring 30,000 nurses, and moving that 4 hours per resident care model with ratios that support to make sure people are fed, toileted, bathed, and provided with some social interaction. So even if you think about 4 hours of care per person today, there's 8 hours in a day. So that sounds like it's at least 2 people if we're going to get there to the 4 hours of care.
Thank you. As an electorate, how do we know you will put your plan into practice? And what are your specific timelines and benchmarks for the implementation of the changes you are promising for home care and long-term care?
I mean, we want to make sure that it's, of course, safe and effective, but a caring and responsible environment that puts people ahead of profits. And I mean, I am working towards a government with Andrea Horwath as our premier. And I recognize that that is the sole goal, but there might be a plan B. in which case, what are we going to do to make sure that we can make it a reality, right? And so definitely for the NDP as a whole, we're committed to keeping profits out of care and ending the profit for long-term care with an immediate moratorium on new for-profit facilities, immediately paying our PSWs more. I'm personally going to be working to modify the Fixing Long-Term Care Act to make sure we're incorporating language to ensure types and numbers of inspections and inspectors. I want to work to move up the timeline to 4 hours because, as I mentioned before, March 2025 is too long to wait under the current timeline as laid out. In the next year, the NDP is committed to, in office, building 150,000 new homes that are affordable and meet the needs of seniors. We talked a little bit about that earlier. In total, building 1.5 million over the next 10 years. We will mandate those universal design standards and ensure an adequate supply of housing options to meet the needs of seniors seeking to downsize or move into a multi-generational home. We want to delay the admission into institutionalized long-term care and receive care in their own home, while we're also investing in home and community care support services that help people stay out of hospital. I talked a little bit about the caregiver benefit program that will provide that direct support to family caregivers, providing $400 a month. The Seniors Property Tax Deferral Program, allowing seniors who own their own home to defer property taxes until their house is sold. And I mentioned earlier how the province will finance that deferral so that municipalities aren't seeing their tax base diminished. And as well, also talked about the safety tax credit, transitioning that to a seniors home safety grant, providing up to $5,000 for eligible expenses for handrails, stair lifts, and other modifications. Many of those programs will be heavily advocated for the NDP, no matter what we have going forward. But if elected, absolutely what I mentioned before about providing legislation. I mean, working with my counterpart who put forward a bill called 14 called Time to Act. It obviously didn't reach the royal assent. But I mean, we need to work to ensure that we're moving up the 4 hours of care. We need to work that we're incorporating language to ensure types and numbers of inspections and numbers of inspectors. Because after reading the Fixing Long-Term Care Act, what I saw is there's still only legislated one inspection a year. There's some great, penalties if you're in violation, but we all know that unless you are specifically telling them exactly what to look for, then comprehensive might not necessarily get looked at. And we need that to ensure that we are doing proper infection prevention and control.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Gemma. Dean, we're at the 2:44 mark. Did you want me to ask about your additional questions?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Gemma, Dean was wondering if you would be willing to respond to one or two more questions from him.
Good afternoon, Gemma. Look, you touched on briefly on my first supplementary question, and that dealt with Bill 218, which you identified as being an issue. As you know, it's commonly referred to as the Supporting Ontario Recovery and Municipal Election Act. Mm-hmm. I always love it how government bury difficult things with other legislation that's essential, time and time again. But my question to you is, would an NDP government move immediately to repeal Bill 218?
I like that. I mean, absolutely. When I think about how angry I was when I heard about that legislation that they had put in place to protect their friends in long-term care that own long-term care, I was appalled. I mean, even the timeline. I mean, my goodness. First reading, October 2020, second, third, fourth assent by November, literally a month, the day later. So absolutely. I mean, I'm sure that would be a priority. That if there is an NDP government, then absolutely, we can make that quite easily. That would be something that I would love to champion. If I'm working with other people, that's going to take a little bit more of a struggle. But absolutely, that's something that I could definitely champion moving forward. Because you're right. I think the very fact when we saw, you know, Premier Ford talking about that release report that was coming of the Canadian Armed Forces in May of 2020, right? Even himself talking about criminal charges, and then starting the commission like a few months after that, and seeing the challenges that they had even obtaining the information about what happened. I mean, you want to talk about like working really fast, right? To be able to enact that legislation, it's absolutely appalling. It's absolutely appalling. So yes, I would say if we have an NDP government, I would love to champion a repeal of Bill 218. If I'm working across the table, I realize that the likelihood of that being accepted would be very low, but even being able to present it as an option would be wonderful, just to be able to speak
Indeed.
about.
Thank you for that, Gemma. I have another question for you.
Sure.
Currently in Ontario, there are approximately 700,000 Ontarians being recipient of home care at this time. At the same time, there are approximately 70,000 Ontarians residing in long-term care. But when we look at the budgeting figures for these services, long-term care makes up 87% of the budget. Home care only makes up 13% of the funds budgeted. Would an NDP government move to address this inequity in funding?
So I think this is where I'm going to take an opportunity to kind of revisit some of the things that we've talked about, making a sustainable investment into long-term care of $1 billion over 4 years. So I think the NDP absolutely recognizes that there is a huge gap and we need to ensure people can stay in their homes. And I'm trying to think of my budget notes right now to see where the difference are, but I don't have that in front of me. So, but I definitely want to kind of revisit, but again, we have a plan to provide $1 billion worth of funding into it, a plan to, you know, repeal Bill 124 to raise the wages of the nurses, and repealing it by ensuring that they're still able to adhere to their collective agreements that they've entered into, paying the PSWs more. I mean, I don't think that there is any part of the NDP plan that isn't addressing the shortfall that exists already. And we want to make that as robust as we possibly can. So, you know, I'm sorry, I don't have more specific figures as to how much was in the current 2022 budget specifically for long-term care, but I do know from one of the points that I was looking at that we are, according to the Auditor General, I mean, in 2020, they had authorized to spend $120 million on building capacity specifically in homes and community care, and that's the Forward government specifically, but they only spent $42 million. So we know that there's more that needs to be spent. And I think definitely the NDP has a plan to put $1 billion into it with $235 million in this next year. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And I will now call upon Henry to thank you on behalf of our committee.
Hi, Gemma. It's Henry Johnson on iPad 10. This is your second visit with this committee, the first being at the awareness walk. And on behalf of Dean, Anne, Larry, Pat, Sandy, Gay, Donna, I want to thank you for your enthusiastic and well-prepared presentation this afternoon in response to the questions, which for seniors living anywhere in the province, and particularly for us in Windsor-Essex, are really very important issues. And we appreciate the effort you're putting forth, and we wish you well in your campaign. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the time and the opportunity to speak with all of you again today. I really do look back very fondly at attending that long-term care advocacy walk. back, it seems like it was so long ago, but I mean, I've had a couple of other opportunities to speak at the Windsor Health Coalition, as well as the Canadian Federation of University Women as well, and prepared an entire PowerPoint presentation for that, specifically on this issue, because I think it is so incredibly important. And I mean, as I go out and knock on doors and really meet people in the public and speaking to them about what our platform is, what amazes me the most, and I find really upsetting the most, is the fact that if you just turn on the TV or read in the paper, everything's great, right? We're fixing it, right? We're investing in it. We want seniors to stay at home. And I'm like, and so when I take an opportunity to kind of like let people know what I've just learned, not only about like former Premier Mike Harris making $200,000 a year to be the chairperson of like Chartwell, you know, and the fact that they paid in 2020 their shareholders $171 million, of which $138 million came from our taxpayer dollars. People are shocked and they're like, what? And I'm like, yes. And then I go on to say, I mean, I'm deeply concerned about what we're seeing in the future, because I know from when I heard Premier Ford say we're fixing it, and what we saw him do was remove those comprehensive inspections, it became abundantly clear to me that there is more that's working underneath the surface that we are not aware of. And so the other thing that I'm talking to people as well is the comments that I heard, and I want to thank the Toronto Star, because back in March of 2022, they published an article saying that Ontario private hospitals could soon reappear. And they were referencing a press briefing that took place with Minister Elliott, with Premier Ford there in the background, where they referenced this. And there weren't too many, you know, well, you want to talk about what makes it to, you know, the click to like the 50-second or the 15-second clip that you can watch on the news. It's absolutely not that. And when I look at just some of the actions that have taken place over the last little bit and the seeming love and desire of privatizing our services from our current Conservative government, I have a deep-seated concern that private hospitals are next on their list. And I think about the other comment that just came out about how, and I love this, opening 450 new spots in our medical schools for both undergraduate doctors as well as specialists as well. And I'm thinking, right now, we know people are waiting months and years to see physicians. And if we're dealing with a government that is so happy to open the door to all of these new spots and seats in medical schools, where will these doctors work? And I remember the story, and I can't remember the doctor's name, but if you remember a few years ago, we were able to recruit a new orthopedic surgeon into our community who couldn't get time in the OR because the existing orthopedic surgeons didn't want to open that door because it's less slices of the pie for them. There's only, for let's say, enough for 100 surgeries. And if we've already divided that amongst us 5, then there's no more for you because that means we get less. When I look at that frame, I'm thinking, Premier Ford, are you laying the groundwork for more private hospitals? And I'm deeply concerned. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to share with you, for like just allowing me to like learn and speak about this issue and understanding how completely duplicitous, because I will use that word, I think what we're dealing with in the current government. And I'm so grateful for your advocacy and the work of Windsor Health Coalition, as well as Ontario Health Coalition and CARP specifically, because it's you that have been keeping the feet to the fire and continuing to raise the alarm about what's going on.
Okay, Jenna, thank you very much for that. And we wish you good canvassing.
Thank you. Nice
Bye,
to meet
Gemma.
everyone today. Have a great
Hi,
day.
Gemma.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow.
Gemma's gone.
I'm tired from her energy.
Oh, my goodness,
Oh.
yes.
Talk about a ball of energy. Great
Oh,
Scott.
Is very well aware of everything.
It was quite a lively 4 hours.
Well, I think Gary may be joining us very shortly, so I don't know if we'll have much time to have a little conversation. But Henry, overall impression?
Very impressed, as I was when I first met her, just in terms of her personality, her care for people, her industry, and getting in so quickly involved and enmeshed in this whole area of healthcare. It came true to me very clearly that she's a very dedicated, hardworking, and she has a full-time job as a professor at the University of Windsor. My goodness, she's a whirlwind.
Yes, she is. And your thoughts?
I'm always been impressed by Gemma, and I think she's very well aware of what our issues are, and she applied a smart solution to everything that I was worried about. So yeah, I definitely am voting for her if you want to know.
Donna? Donna?
Okay.
Muted.
You're
Oh.
muted.
Yeah. Yes, I was impressed the first time I talked to her at our walk. And yeah, if I was in her riding, she'd get my vote for sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Gay, your thoughts?
Well, I don't know Gemma, but I'm certainly impressed. You know, she is a go-getter, and I believe her. I trust her.
Larry?
There we go.
Well, she's my preferred candidate, and the party I vote for. So I can't say much more than that because it's very subjective, I guess. But well prepared, energetic, yes.
Yes, and they appear to have picked a very good candidate, I must say.
Particularly following Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, Pat?
Pat's got two thumbs.
Pat's still silent?
Yes.
Okay, and Sandy?
I agree with what everybody has said. I've known Gemma for a while. I'm quite excited that she's gotten involved in the NDP party.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a very interesting race in Windsor-Tecumseth. Now, Gary should be joining us momentarily.
Yeah, it's 2:58.
Yep, we're on the home stretch,
Yes.
my friends.
This has
It's
been
been
an
an
excellent
interesting week.
exercise.
If I,
Yes, indeed.
I had to leave the meeting, and I may have to again, we're talking about healthcare. I'm fighting to try to get my legs looked at next week. I had a reaction to the booster a few months ago, and I'm having an increasing problem walking. So if I leave, that's why, because I'm trying to get myself moved up on a wait list.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. I hope you're successful in, getting immediate care.
I'm gonna bug them enough that they're just gonna do it to shut me up, I think.
Well, what is it
Well,
about?
if you need an advocate, I know a woman named Gemma who would advocate for you.
I was thinking about that while she was talking to me.
Yeah.
A lot of good points that she brought up about the orthopedic and that, because it used to be, when I was nursing, it used to be the old man's club, we used to call it. There were so many orthopedics that, we always want new ones to come in, but they'd never give them any of the OR time, which exactly what she's saying happened.
Yeah, it's a closed shop, so to speak.
Yeah, it's changing, but it's a slow process.
Just a reminder that when Gary comes on, I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to leave at 3:15. And then my husband will end the meeting when you guys are all finished just by clicking on stop recording. Okay?
Okay, that is great. And thank you, Anne, for all your dedication and commitment to making this a very successful week for our committee and for the candidates.
You're welcome.
It's well appreciated.
For sure, Anne. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And have a great weekend.
Oh, long weekend. You all as well.
Long weekend, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be nice weather. No Gary yet. He
Yeah.
didn't reply to the email.
Well, maybe we scared him.
I don't know. He didn't reply to the email.
Ah,
Give him a few minutes.
I'll give him a few minutes, maybe his
Oh,
watch is
yes.
off.
Dean, while
Yep.
we have a few minutes, so I have something I've been thinking about this afternoon. When people keep talking about giving PSWs more money, the more I think about it, it's not just the money, it's the quality of the job they do. Like
Somebody sounds like they're underwater.
Oh, that's probably me, because I'm on an old computer. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah, it's a quality. The PSWs that I met with my mom and dad, they left because they couldn't do what they wanted to do, which was spend time with people. And so it's not just about money for them, it's staffing ratio too, and being able to do the job they trained for. I haven't really
Absolutely.
heard that come through in anybody that has spoken so far.
Being part of a team.
Yeah.
You're right, Sandy. They haven't, nobody's actually mentioned that. They
No.
mentioned about bringing them in and everything, but how dedicated are they actually going to be?
Well, the other thing is, Sandy, I'm not sure unless you have experience with long-term care, that you would be aware of that, and that the PSWs only have time to do the absolute necessities for the number of people they're taking care of. There is no time for emotional health or activity-based things, or just sitting with the person and speaking with them or singing a song. Yeah, they don't have the time.
And they don't get a chance just to work with people as part of a professional team either, because they're working in one home and moving to another, and they don't feel connected at all.
Well, they don't have any ownership or alliance to the home because the homes don't appreciate them. They just use them and don't reward them for the work that they do. And can you imagine being a young mom who has a child and you need to work at 2 or 3 different locations on a call-in basis? How do you arrange childcare last minute? You don't know when you're going to be called to work, what you're going to, or to plan your life with anything. So a lot of people just say, no, I can't come in today. I don't have. So the 2 out of the 3 that are left work short staffed the whole shift, which makes it horrible for them and the residents. Happens so many times.
Yeah.
That happens in the hospitals too, though. I mean, you know, the same thing. It's just a vicious circle. Even when I was working at Huron Lodge, that's exactly what it was too.
Yeah.
Calls people in at the last minute because other people could. So I think it's universal thing really in that field that they do have those problems.
It's definitely a systemic problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're even seeing it more now, not even in the nursing field or the health field, but you're even finding that in restaurants, everything right now. And there's Gary.
Yeah, nobody wants to work.
No,
Gary's
no one wants to
on.
work anymore. Hi, Gary.
Hello.
Hi, Gary.
Hey, sorry, a little bit of computer issue here.
Well, that's quite all right, Gary.
We're good to go here, and I've done this about 642 times, so I'm not sure what happened today.
Well, make it 643, my friend.
There we go. There you go, Dean.
Okay.
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
Gary, as you know, my name is Dean Labute, and I'm the chair of our Long-Term Care Transformation Committee.
Yes.
And on behalf of our CARP Windsor-Essex chapter, our more than 2,200 members, and the members of this committee, I want to thank you for agreeing to meet with us for this question and answer session today.
Sure.
We have already shared the questions that are being asked of you with you in advance of today's meeting, and we look forward to your answers.
Certainly.
And I will now call upon Gay to present the questions. Gay, would you please?
Thank you, Dean. Hi, Gary.
Hey, Gay, nice to see you. Been 20 years probably, but how you doing?
Since 1996. I'm doing fine.
96, so more like 25. Yeah, I got a barky dog here too now. Hang on.
I see that.
I don't feel so bad now.
There you go.
Hey, now we know that Gay has another man in her life.
we worked at Revenue Canada together. I was with Revenue Canada for about 8.5 years of my working life. My main profession was the University of Windsor, though. I was an administrator. I worked my way up to assistant registrar. So anyway, Gary knows me from Revenue Canada, now Canada Revenue, CRA.
Well, do you know my buddy David Foy,
I know the
Revenue
name.
Canada?
Mhm,
Yeah,
I
he was
know-
a senior investigator for Revenue Canada at the
mhm.
Windsor office.
Yeah.
Dave and his wife Jen have been friends of mine for many years.
Really? Okay. I was in client assistance, so I was a nice person at Revenue Canada.
Well, I've mentioned David's name to some lawyers and to some accountants, and they quiver. So
Oh.
they want to know, how do I know him? I said, he's a friend.
Mhm.
Has Gary returned?
No, not yet.
Okay. Yeah, I remember one particular CA. I mentioned David's name to him. He said, oh, "Won't you know him? I've dealt with him, and I
Okay.
don't like
Gary,
dealing with him."
Gary is back now, Dean.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
So we're ready to start the questions, Gary.
Sure, Gay, go ahead, please.
What is your party's plan to provide a seamless system of home care, long-term care, and palliative care for our increasing elderly population in Windsor and Essex County?
Well, thanks. And I'm sure you've all read the Liberal platform here as to what they want to do moving forward. It's without a doubt the best platform of the three parties. When you see what they want to do, when they want to keep seniors in their homes much longer with increased home care, when they want to get rid of the for-profit model, as you know, that doesn't work and it was a disaster through the 2 years of COVID and pandemic. And of course, the reduction in the size of homes to, if we do have to get some type of care, similar to what we do with our youth, our troubled youth. If they have to go into a group home, we put them into a group home of 6, 8, 10, 12 at the most. And I think, that could work for seniors moving forward as well.
Okay, and do the Liberals have a plan where a person can move from the home care into long-term care and into palliative care easily? Like, is there anything out there?
Well, we think so. I mean, Gay would have to be elected obviously first, and then, look at first of all, look at the system, internally to see what they've done. The PCs have changed things around. They've gone to deputy ministers and in the old days, there was just a health minister and a bunch of, people under them. But they've gone to, as you know, Michael Tabolo has got in on the health, portfolio, Christine Elliott, and so is Rod Phillips. So we want to see, first of all, if that sort of structure works. And if not, we'll change it to what we think works, and we'll make it more seamless thereafter.
Okay, thank you. What specifically will you or your party do to help more seniors stay in their homes?
Well, absolutely. If you've seen some of the, again, the Liberals platform of, public, personal support workers, PSWs, going to $25 an hour in pay. We look at even tuition breaks. It's sort of a plan in place right now where PSWs, once they graduate from the course, they get reimbursed their tuition. So that is certainly something we need. I think we've got to look at the community care access model as well to the CCAC and see that. And maybe we can tie in VON a little bit as well into some of the platform here, so that people can stay at home much longer and stay in their homes where they're comfortable and get that quality care that they need from the various caregivers.
Thank you, Gary. What is your vision for long-term care specifically? We would like you to comment on how your plan will provide a quality and stimulating environment that is based on the individual needs of seniors.
Well, it's gonna take some time, obviously, right? So I mean, we've got the Huron lodges and Schlegels of the world and whatnot, and those aren't going to go away immediately. What we do want to do, though, is stop any further for-profit builds. Certainly, I've recommended to Henry and Dean and Larry before that you guys should be after the new Banwell Gardens build and see what they're doing there. And see what their plans are and what could be changed moving forward. It's certainly something that they're probably waiting for the election results, right? And if the PCs get elected, they may still have their way here moving forward. But, you know, if the Liberals can form government, even a minority government, it's going to be real interesting to see how some of the long-term care homes scramble. But I'd like to see, obviously, for-profit, you know, be eliminated. You know, we've got a very successful model in Huron Lodge with, you know, all the various wings and the cares and whatnot, you know, publicly funded, and you know, a nonprofit type organization. We look at some more of these smaller homes moving forward. I mean, my mother was in long-term care, and I'm very aware of what she went through for 10 years, and it was actually quite good to some degree. You know, it was an Alzheimer's situation, and she was on her own floor eventually. You know, they created own floors and whatnot, but certainly that's a situation where, you know, it's going to take some time, right? We're going to have to look at the whole healthcare portfolio, and certainly whether or not you've got a majority government or not is another thing to determine the speed in which you can move forward.
Right. Thank you. What is your party's plan to attract and retain healthcare workers in home care and long-term care? And what staffing client ratio does your plan include?
Yeah, that's I mean, certainly the retention and attracting is something that we have to do. So when you look at the Windsor model, and it's you know, this is rare in the rest of the province, with Detroit being so close, being 10 times the size of population wise, you know, the greater Detroit area, with them offering incentives, you know, galore to come over there. American funds, of course, and Gay, as you know, when they come back to Canada and fill out their income tax returns, you gotta multiply that by the, you know, the exchange rate. So it's attractive to some degree. And I've spoken to some nurses. They like it for about 2 or 3 years, and then they've had enough. They've had enough of lineups at the border. They've had enough of, you know, 15, 20 minutes on the I-94s and I-96s, and they're going to come back. So certainly we need to look at some type of retention bonuses for our current nurses and long-term care staff, and certainly something for our future, you know, long-term care people as well. I like the PSW wage increase. I like the use of more RPNs in the long-term care homes, and certainly like you know, the Liberals plan to immediately increase minimum wage by $1 an hour as well, you know, moving forward. So those are really good things here. The staffing client to staff ratio, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure about that. That's something that we've got to dig into a little bit more. I mean, I know the so many hours a day that you know, the worker is supposed to be with the you know, the long-term care person is in place right now, but that's something that we would have to sort of determine moving forward. What are your recommendations from CARP on client to staff ratio?
Dean, do you want to address the question?
Well, we do not have a definitive figure on that. We've been looking at different models and approaches. Does anyone else have a figure off the top of their head?
I don't. No.
No, not offhand, Gary.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. And so you're in sort of the same boat as we are, right? It's something that's really going to have to be looked at and studied, you know, moving forward. I'd like to see, not just in long-term care, but, you know, my platform is on the 3 cares, right? And I think those are the 3 main things that are affecting us here moving forward. And that's healthcare, long-term care, and childcare. And all 3 of those things affect me and continue to affect me to this day. So we want to make improvements in all 3 areas. So the Liberals have brought in national childcare at $10 an hour, which will really help the system. So it won't just help parents, but it'll help somebody, for example, who has a baby who works in a long-term care home or a hospital. Well, most of them are taking 12 to 18 months off of work right now because they can't afford to go to put the baby into childcare and go back to work. But with $10 a day childcare, that means now they can afford it and they can go back at the 6-month period, whether they're the PSW, an RPN, a social worker, et cetera, and really contribute to the system. So that type of cycle is really important here moving forward, and will help the client staff ratio moving forward. Of course, we've got to get this hospital built. As you know, this has been an ongoing process that the Liberals actually started back in 2012 with, Finance Minister Dwight Duncan putting the money there, Dr. Eric Hoskins moving it forward, MPP Teresa Perusa being involved in well. They couldn't move it to the next level because they didn't get reelected in 2018. So you saw what the Ford government has done. They've sat on it for 3.5 years, and then they make an announcement at the 3.5 year mark of their term that they're going to, move it to stage 2 last November. So it's one of those things that could move a lot faster. I think there's been lots of consultation and lots of signs put up, but it's time for action and it's time to move on all 3 of those portfolios for sure. And that we'll get to that the staff client ratio figure shortly after being elected.
Okay, thank you. As an electorate, how do we know you will put your plan into practice? What are your specific timelines and benchmarks for the implementation of the changes you are promising for home care and long-term care?
Well, for those of you who know me, and I know Henry knows me, and Christine and Ann and Henry and Gay, certainly I've been sort of one of the very first advocates about improvements to long-term care as a city councillor and as now a recent appointee. I shouldn't say recent, a year or so ago to the Huron Lodge board. So having gone through it with a mother and been through the situation, creeping into that CARP age as well myself. Certainly something that concerns me. So I would say within 2 years, by 2024, I think the Liberals should have a terrific model in place as to how they want to move forward on better home care, eliminating the for-profit model, and looking at if we can get some of these big institutions that the PCs want to keep adding and renovating or building more. Maybe we can cut those down and get those to the right size models, because we know the figures and the statistics here moving forward that there's more and more seniors every year, and there's going to be more and more care needed. So I think a 2 year window is very fair as far as timelines, and certainly something. I probably was the first city councillor to come out publicly and state that I've got concerns about long-term care and home care, and Henry picked up on that, and Christine, fairly early there. So I think my word is good. I think you've seen me as a city councillor be very productive here for 3.5+ years. A leader on economic development, on various traffic calming and various other things. So now, if I can be your member of provincial parliament, I'll be a leader on healthcare, long-term care, and childcare. And of course, we need improvements in the education system, accessible and affordable housing, and whatnot. This is a big portfolio. There's lots to do here moving forward. But I think. I've already proven it, as a city councillor and as an advocate for seniors and somebody that's at that age pretty close myself as well. So I think if anybody knows me and my family, if we say something, we're going to do it. That's just the way the stubborn Ukrainians do things moving forward. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you, Gary. We've now covered the 5 questions that we provided to you, but Dean has a couple more questions. Would you be willing to answer them?
Oh, absolutely. Dean and I have been speaking for 3.5 years, so let's continue the dialogue.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll disclose to all my fellow committee members, Gary is my representative on Windsor City Council, and God knows how many members of council I've dealt with over the years. And I estimate I know Gary to be the most active and most responsive of all the representatives I've had where I reside for the past 37 years. So when I call upon Gary, mission accomplished. It is done.
I appreciate that, Dean. Thanks.
I'll leave my commentary, but I'll get to the questions.
Sure.
But I had to give full disclosure because you and I have worked together. You work on council, and you do a very impressive job on council, my friend. Okay, getting to the first question I have for you. During the height of COVID, the second round of COVID, when thousands of deaths were taking place in long-term care, the Ford government, in its haste, moved to move to provide a protective shield around the investors, the owners of long-term care homes and retirement homes. What I would like to know from you, if Liberal government is formed in Ontario post 2nd of June, will you and your government commit to immediately rescinding Bill 218, which is commonly referred to as the Supporting Ontario Recovery and Municipal Elections Act?
Dean, it's something that when I get a chance to get the leader's ear, Stephen Del Duca, we've had a brief conversation on this topic. Stephen's trying to get his own seat back in the legislature as well. He's not a current, he's the leader of the party, but not an MPP at this time as well. So we keep saying we're going to go back to that topic, and he's going to come to Windsor, and he hasn't done that yet, Dean. But the preliminary talks were that yes, that the Liberal government was going to move towards that and eliminate that. There's a few Bill C-124, Bill 218, and a couple's all kind of anti-healthcare, limiting doctor and nurses' wages and whatnot. They're still concerned really about balancing the budget here moving forward versus what we should be doing coming out of a 2-year COVID and pandemic is we should be providing the best quality of life here moving forward. And we'll figure out how to pay for some of that stuff down the road, but regressive cutbacks and whatnot are really not what the Liberals are looking to do moving forward. But I want to still have that conversation. The leader, Stephen, said he's coming to Windsor here before June the 2nd. And that question is on my sheet already, Dean, and certainly I hope to get an answer for you a little sooner. And now I wish I would have an answer for you now, but I'll get that and I'll get back to you personally, sure.
Okay. No, the repeal of Bill 218, from our point of view, is absolutely critical. I would go so far to say that support is dependent upon that course of action, because the protection that provided to the owners of long-term care homes and retirement homes and investors was unconscionable. And people need to be able to seek justice and redress for the loss of their loved ones.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
I'll move to my second.
Sure,
Dean,
Dean, one final comment. This sort of goes back to the mid 1990s and the Mike Harris era, right? Where when Mike decided to sort of deregulate a lot of that, we got rid of the homes for people with with mental health issues and whatnot, and he figured, well, we'll just put them people out on the street and they can live through social services and whatnot. That experiment failed, as we know, and it's caused some repercussions for the Windsor area and many cities around here where we have people out on the streets that should be in care. So anything to do with care moving forward, I can personally tell you that I'm in favor of repealing Bill 218, and I'm hoping I convince the leader and the rest of the party. Thanks. Okay,
the next question for you, Gary. Currently in Ontario, we have more than 700,000 Ontarians being recipients of home care. At the same time, approximately 70,000 Ontarians reside in long-term care. Unfortunately, the budgeting as it currently stands, 87% of the money budgeted goes to long-term care, and only 13% of the government funding goes to home care. Would a Liberal government address that inequity in funding?
Well, absolutely. That's way too high of a ratio. That's very similar to the ratio that I see in hospitals as well on emergency visits and who gets admitted and who doesn't. That's almost exactly the same figures, but certainly no, that has to change. I mean, I think the Liberals' platform of home care moving forward means you're going to have to put some more funding behind that. So that certainly is something that we would look at, Dean. I'm not sure what the that's a 700,000, 70,000 sort of ratio. But 10 to 1. So certainly we'd have to change that ratio. I got to think at least a 60-40, 65-35 would be a sort of a goal to start, and then look at it a little more. But that would be a terrific terrific backroom conversation at Queen's Park as to how they come up with that type of formula. And I got to think that us as elected officials are not going to have all those answers. We're going to have to rely on some people in the medical community out of the GTA, the Eric Hoskins of the world that, that are still around and doing reports and whatnot to see what their thoughts are on that. And then at the end of the day, like we do at City Council, we get reports, we listen to administrators, we read stuff, and then we make a decision moving forward. But certainly that ratio of 87-13 would be much better in favor of home care as well.
Okay, Gary, thank you very much for that. At this time, I'll call upon Henry to thank you on behalf of our committee. Henry?
Hi, Gary. We have, as you mentioned earlier, been together, select members of our committee meeting with you, but today on behalf of Pat, and Larry, and Gay, and Sandy, and Anne, and Donna, I want to thank you for once again meeting with us to share your comments, your thoughts, your philosophy on the direction that the government should be taking in terms of issues that are important to seniors. We really appreciate you being here and sharing with us, and we want to wish you well in the upcoming election. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Henry, and it's always nice to see you. Unfortunately, I missed your walk there earlier, that I wasn't able to attend that, but let me know anytime there's any CARP functions here moving forward. Certainly like to attend. It's a committee that's dear to me, and as I say, I'm going to be probably part of your group here, in a couple of years. So thanks for welcoming me, and appreciate the kind words, and enjoy your long weekend, everyone.
Okay, and good canvassing to you, Gary.
You too,
Yeah.
Gary.
Thanks, Dean. Yeah, nice to see
Okay,
you.
bye-bye now.
And take care. Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Hi, Gary.
Yeah.